Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I wanted to go ahead and make one more of those videos where I give you a little bit of meta update, especially since I've, over the last week, made two decks of my own that I've done quite decently in Super High Legend. And I thought, well, since I made two new creations, why not just share them with everybody and give you a little bit of an overview. All right, let's dive right into what are the best decks in Hearthstone currently. I think this one being the top deck of the meta one more time, being Miracle Rogue. Miracle Rogue is just super dominant at top legend. You have Sinstone Graveyard and the whole Potion Belt, Ghoulish synergy. If you want to see a little bit on how to play this deck, I've made a video on with a guide a while back. The deck hasn't changed super much. The ghouls are gone, but the mulligan is kind of the same, except for that you keep like the concoctors a little bit more aggressively than you used to. The rest of the mulligan is very, very similar, like concoctors, cutlasses, Ghoulish, Potion Belts, and Sinstone Graveyard. Miracle Rogue is the top dog of the meta right now. If you want other rogue decks, of course there's Death Rattle Rogue and there's some Court of Thief Rogue. I'm not going to go into them in depth, but they are doing quite fine. Another deck that is on top of the meta right now that you see a lot in top legend is Undead Priest. And Undead Priest is a super aggressive board-centric deck. You mulligan a little bit for Void Touch the Tenant, you mulligan for Mind Eater, the Corporal, and of course on coin, you always want to have like Undying Allies together with Hunting Nightmare or the Shadowed Spirit. Those are really powerful cards. Against some of the more control-y decks, when I was playing Priest, one of the cards that would always wreck me is Najak Hexen, the Whispers of the Deep. If you have those cards together, it's really powerful. And a lot of the way how you can win against Rogue, if you face a lot of Miracle Rogue, is if you go Najak Hexen, and then if you silence their big minion, they cannot take it back, and you deal all the big minion damage to their board, and you can make a really big board swing. Also some really, really powerful cards. It's a really aggressive deck and it's very, very potent on ladder. Especially if you go down in ranks, the deck becomes better and better. Then we have one more deck that is very, very successful at Super High Legend. Quest Druid, the win condition being on the one hand, of course, the quest. But the quest here is used a little bit more just to stabilize and gain some armor. In the first step, you gain 4 armor and gain 4 attack and you gain 5 armor. Then you gain 5 attack and gain 5 armor in the card. And then you gain 6 attack and you get Guff the Tough, which gives you 8 attack and 8 armor and comes with a nice little taunt. Your overall win condition with this deck is Bran, Coin, or Innervate, or just having 11 mana, Anubrakan. Gain 8 armor, your next 3 minions this turn cost armor instead of mana. You gain 16 armor with the Bran together. You can then play a 5 mana Astalor, which gives you 5 armor back. You still have 16 armors. And you play double Astalor, dealing in total 56 damage, split among your opponent's board and minions. And even if that doesn't kill your opponent, that's often good enough of a board swing to be able to completely overwhelm your opponent. And the important cards you want to be keeping in this matchup, Doe, Bloom, Seedsman, and kind of Nourish. These are really important. Nourish is even more important than Guff in this matchup because Nourish activates the Pathmaker, but be careful not to play Capture Cold Truth Mine after you've played Nourish because it deactivates your Pathtaker. I think another card that is fine to keep depending on matchup, of course, is like the Mine or Moonlit Guidance, trying to find important pieces. And if you know that you need removal, Rake is your number one option to be able to have some stability. Incarceration is not a keep card, but I want to highlight it as one of the cards that you use against Miracle Rogue or bigger minions, where you basically make your opponent's minion dormant for 3 turns, and then you try to finish the game quickly. Your main way of controlling the board is to play Lingering Zombie, Spammy Arcanist. This will always AoE for at least 4 damage. This is your AoE control, and then of course with Rake and Pounce you're able to control individual minions. Those are like the basic decks that everyone plays, and now I want to get a little bit to 2 self-creations and one more meta deck that is a little bit more fun and that I've also played to success in High Legend. Firstly, I'm going to start with one of my own creations. And this is a Control Priest, an Undead Control Priest. The win condition being on the one hand that you can outvalue your opponent with stuff like Mind Eater, Plague Spreaders, and Spirit Guides. Especially the Undying Allies on Spirit Guide or Disciple are very, very good. Cards to mulligan for in this deck are very specific to the matchup. Against aggressive decks, you want a card like Lightmore, Netherdrake, and Zarella. And against pretty much the more slow decks, you want Spirit Guides. And of course, you can have ETC because it gives you the cards according to the matchup that you want. And of course, in all matchups, you basically want Mind Eater and Sergeant, and you have already a good Undead. You can also keep Undying Allies. Or you can keep Bone Caller as well if you already have one of your good 2-drops. In the band, we have Ooze, War Rider, and Theo. Theo against combo decks, Ooze against Miracle Rogue, and Rivendare against other control decks. So that is the deck I played in High Legend. I've been reasonably successful with this. I climbed a little bit with it. Really interesting if you like control decks and this is like something up your alley and you want to play. And then I have another deck. This is created by Jambre. It's a really cool creation. Super tempo heavy. It's a Murloc based Shaman that uses a lot of synergy around Clownfish, then Hawkstrider Rancher together with like cards like Tiny Fin and so on. A basic mulligan guide for this deck is always keep the Clownfish. You keep the Slate Breaker most of the time. If you play against a deck that can't remove Bolner onto, you keep Bolner. You always keep Schooling, and depending on if you think your opponent will be able to remove Rancher, Rancher is also a very good keep. That's your basic and mulligan strategy, and then you like try to like coin Clownfish into Ravager or coin Clownfish into like just anything together with Hawkstrider Rancher. Or just grabbing aggressive board is very, very potent. The way that you win most of the games is you build a bunch of Murloc boards and you get like a cheap Murlocola and other cards, and then you play Rotgill and you basically make your board unremovable because every time your opponent kills one minions, all the other gets buffed. This is a really cool deck. I enjoyed this a lot. ETC here has Clergy against aggro decks, Bloodlust against controllish decks, and then Theotar against combo decks in here as well that you can test. Claggy, of course, having the upside that it works together with like Bran and Bolner, being able to heal you a lot against decks like aggressive mages. But most of the time, you're going to try to win over board with Burgle or like Hawkstrider's tempo swing turns. And then last but not least, I have a deck that I played today and I called it Ticket to the Dumpster, and I thought it was going to go really, really badly because I was like, let's put all the good cards together in a deck and see if it works. And to my astonishment, I actually started climbing the ladder. This is a little bit of take on a more aggressive Burgle deck, really. It plays all the good cards from the Burgle deck, Reconnaissance, Tooth being like a mech card but decent in the meta because it does well against Shadow Priest and against other more aggressive decks. Then of course Trickster, Stash, Queen, and Tess. Those being the good cards from the Burgle deck. And then I took some of the cards from the more aggressive deck without Graveyard and Draka because I don't want to go all in. And then the whole, basically the concoction package with Ghoulish, Concoctor, Potion Belt, and Putricide. I thought this was a nice idea because it lets me be flexible in what I want to play, and if there's a lot of Miracle Rogue, I will have an easier time removing their board just by being able to generate more deadly shot concoctions. And I've found this deck to be very, very successful against other board-centric decks like Paladin, Mage, and so on, while still being like very okay against control because you're still like Thief Rogue. You can still be very greedy after all if you want to. And I've been just generally liking this deck a lot. I had a really bad time against combo decks like OTK Warlock. Druid actually did fine, but it's not that easy because you are faster, but you're still no Miracle Rogue. You're still not making 13/13s on turn 4, but you're also not going as all in as the other deck. Ideally, I would kind of like to play a little bit more aggressive, but you really can't afford, I think, to run cards like Graveyard because, well, the only card you can really cut out of the Burgle package is Tooth. You oftentimes just like, you play like 2 cards a turn. You don't actually play like 10. The only time you really play 10 is if you play Shadow Step, because you're not really playing any of the super important 1-mana spells. Short mulligan guide on this is you basically keep Ghoulish, you keep Concoctor, you keep Cutlass, you keep Potion Belt, you keep Reconnaissance. And then depending on your hand, you also keep Queen Azara. So you have a lot more flexibility in the cards you keep. You want to basically use the potion package in the early game to keep you in the game. And then you want to use and leverage the Jackpot Stash Azara package to be able to outgrind your opponent and just have more value than they have by being able to take expensive minions. I really came to this idea because I thought that the 3-mana concoction that gives you a random card from another class can be really useful. And if you get to replay it, it's amazing. So I was hoping that some games I could discover some good cards. I did high roll with this a little bit, I think, but it's a fun deck, and if you want to try something new, I really recommend you test this out. I called it Ticket to the Dumpster. We didn't get quite there yet, but if you like proactive decks, this is really a cool deck to go. And I was really happy that one of my own creations actually did well in the settled meta, which isn't often the case. Hope you guys enjoyed this video again. I'll see you guys on stream. If you have any questions, just come by, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to answer. And I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.